Hello and welcome. You're watching Business Today TV. I'm Sakshi Batra and this is Market Today, a show where we'll help you understand the closing action on the D Street, starting from the benchmark index moves to sectoral action and all the stocks that are passing the most in trade. We'll also help you understand how should you view some of the stock movement as far as some news developments are concerned and what should be your strategy on that. We'll get you expert take on all of that. But first up, a quick check on how the Nifty and the Sensex are moving at this point in time. Well, both up in trade, 0.6% of a surge for the Nifty. It's back up again at 18,310 now, 107 points of a jump. The Sensex also inched up higher, about 0.4% up in trade. 61,966 currently for the Sensex as well. Let's look at the broader markets. Is there a bump up for that one too? Yes, it is. Both the mid cap and the small cap 100 indices are up at 0.6% each, doing slightly better than the benchmarks as well. Now, when we talk about the other sectoral action, the Nifty Bank is still sulking about 0.2% lower in trade, although it's definitely off the lowest point of the day. FMCG stocks are also inching higher in trade. We're seeing the IT stocks also rising quite sharply. It's 2.5% uptick for that one now. The auto stocks slightly up in trade. The pharma stocks, let's look at that basket as well. Is there a move on that one? Yes, it is. Again, 0.9% of an uptick. It's holding up in the trade today. So these are the sectors that are moving up. Let's look at the Adani Group. Realty stocks also up in trade by 0.7%. Adani Group stocks, those are the stocks that are in focus today because, what a remarkable move on a single day basis. Now, 18% uptick for Adani Enterprises, 2,311. That's the move that you're seeing there. Adani Port, 6% up in trade. Most of the other stocks are also up in trade. Many of them are also hitting upper circuit today. Divis Laboratories, Apollo Hospitals from the pharma pack also inching higher. IT stocks like Tech Mahindra and Wipro also forming a part of the top Nifty 50 gainers. So it's a very, very strong move. TCS, HCL Tech, all are both up by over 2% each as well. Metals also inching higher in trade. Let's look at the losers as well. Some of the banking stocks, autos and FMCG stocks are forming a part of this basket. Axis Bank, for example, is down by 0.8%. Hero Moto, Coal India, Bharti Airtel, the other laggards at this point in time. But time now to welcome our guest on the show, Mr. Sunil Damania joins in. He's the Chief Investment Officer at Markets Mojo. Welcome, Mr. Damania, and thank you so much for taking the time out for this discussion. Well, the markets are inching higher in trade. Looks like, the big decision that was taken by the RBI on withdrawing the 2,000 rupee notes has not had a real considerable impact on the markets per se. They are in fact happy. How do you see and assess the move in the markets?
Thanks a lot, Sakshi, and thanks for inviting me on the show. I think this 2,000 rupee note did come as a big surprise to everyone. And one fear was that market would react very negatively. It has not happened. And there are a couple of reasons for the same. Number one, I think this time government has given a very long window, till 30th September. The window is available for you to either exchange the notes or you deposit the money in your bank account. Number one. Number two, unlike 500 and 1,000 rupees note, which every household would have had, 2,000 rupee note become more of a, only with the ultra rich kind of a what we call investors. So not everyone has that. And in fact, virtually 2,000 rupee note was not in the circulation. It did not. But the reason why market is up, I think, is purely because a lot of spending would happen because of this 2,000 rupee note, which is going to go out of a circulation. So people have started buying consumer goods, people have started buying expensive items, and so on and so forth. And that's going to spur the growth in the economy. So I would not be surprised just purely because of 2,000 rupee note being basically withdrawn from the circulation. I think we could see some bumps up in the GDP growth of the economy. So I think it's a move in the right direction. It was needed. Unfortunately, the collateral impact of that is that unofficial rate of dollar has gone up substantially high, and something similar happened with the unofficial rate with the gold. So what people have been started doing is that since you cannot exchange your 1,000 rupee note if you don't have the white income, people have started converting that into dollar, which is most for this one, or converting into a gold. And I think due to that unofficial rate have gone up in gold and the dollar rate.
Okay, but any kind of opportunities that you spot for investors per se? Would you say, I mean, there is an anticipation, lots of numbers floating around. Perhaps people are estimating that about 50,000 crores to maybe a 1 lakh crore rupees could enter the banks now. There could be a huge liquidity boost right there. Should one really go in for banks right now, or should one go at, gold stocks? Like you pointed also out about gold as well. Should one go and grab those stocks at this point in time? Should one look at realty stocks, any of these, or consumption stocks like you talked about? Is that an opportunity for investors?
So definitely, I think one definitely benefit would be the real estate sector for the very simple reason the kind of money that real estate sector can absorb of this 2000 rupee is one sector which is real estate, and we could see some deal happening and something similar will happen in when the 500 rupees and 1000 rupee note got banned last time. So something similar can happen. I think one good thing which will happen is that, as you rightly said, the liquidity will improve with the banks. And if you remember, the complete mutual fund industry basically saw a big jump post demonetization. So what has happened? The money which was lying in the locker, money which was lying in the cupboard, they all came down to the formal system, and then eventually it got routed to the mutual funds. So I think the mutual fund, and we do have some of the listed AMC players, they should definitely get benefit of that. Number one. Number two, consumption. But I think consumption more would happen on the premium side rather than the grocery or essential side of the stuff, because that's where I don't see much of a jump happening, because ultimately if you're buying right now, eventually you will not buy later. Why? Because you're basically holding it right now just to dispose of your 2000 rupee note. So I don't think much impact will happen on the grocery side, but definitely on the premium side, definitely there is a one. So real estate should do reasonably well, banks should do well, AMC should do well, because they should see some more inflow coming in to their schemes.
Okay, understood that. Okay, the other important bit, for example, in today's trading action is the news flow which came in on the Adani Group on Friday. We did see a movement on the stocks back then, but today they are all skyrocketing. I mean, like Adani Enterprises up by 18%, back at 2300, 17 kind of levels right now, 18.5%. There's no stopping for these stocks, most of them. Even Adani Wilmar, for example, that's up by 10 odd percent, 11%. Adani Group, most of these stocks are up. Is the worst really over for the Adani Group? Would you say that after the findings of the interim report became public on Friday?
So, Sakshi, if you remember, we discussed Adani in great detail, and we did mention that it's only for the those who are strong-hearted. It is not for the
Yeah.
weak-hearted. This Adani Group, and we continue to believe so, because the news flow will keep coming in. Sometime it is positive, the script will go up, and if it is negative, it will go down. So today, if you look at the difference between Sensex and Nifty, the gap is little high, and that's purely because of Adani Enterprise. Why? Because in Sensex we don't have Adani Enterprise, but while in Nifty we do have Adani Enterprise. So that explains the difference between the this one. So my sense is that if you are khatro ke khiladi, please go ahead with the Adani Group. But if you want to play little short, you can't digest volatility, please stay away from the Adani Group, because we believe it can remain highly volatile.
Okay, okay, got that and understood that too. Apart from this, like you also pointed out that people may be going ahead buying dollars, and perhaps that is one reason which is why we are seeing the IT stocks really surge very, very sharply in trade today. Your own thoughts on how does one really approach this defensive pack, like both IT and pharma? We are also seeing very, very strong moves on the pharma stocks, especially stocks like Divis, which have been an underperformer. That's up by 5-6 odd percent today. Your own thoughts on both these pockets?
So, Sakshi, since whenever we came on this channel, we did maintain that IT and pharma looks extremely promising, and they would continue to be the well creator for 2023. In fact, IT did not do well in 2022, and we mentioned that in the beginning of 2023 that IT could be an outlier this year. Pharma is more of a dark horse right now, purely because of generic prices in the US have started stabilizing. Number one. Number two, the India's formulation and the prescription drug growth has been quite good in double digit month after month. And the number three, the prices of pharma company. You mentioned about one pharma company. I don't normally specifically talk about the company specific, but if you look at that company, I think the commentary and the result that came out company declared post numbers has been quite encouraging, and that's one of the reasons that company did well. So we believe despite so many challenges that is there on the IT, it should do well. Of course, the unofficial rate of dollar is nothing to do with the IT companies because they will not get the unofficial. They need to get it to anyway through the legal system only to get convert their dollar into rupee. But the underlying business seems to be only gray area that IT companies could come under pressure if something has to further go wrong with the small and medium-sized bank in the US. Right now, that fear seems to be abated. There doesn't seem to be kind of a concern as of now, but we need to wait and watch. But otherwise, IT in terms of valuation looks very, very attractive. Pharma in terms of valuation, they look very, very attractive. And if you look at IT index itself, in last 1 month is up by 7.5% or so. It's already moved up. And we still believe a lot of steam is still left in the IT.
Okay. But in like pharma stocks, like I was talking about, there is a complete divergence, of course, in the kind of earnings that have also come about so far. I wanted to take your view as to what really is happening here and what are the key challenges that still remain. I mean, like stocks like Gland Pharma, for example, disappointing earnings, and we've seen the stock like really crashing consecutively for 5 straight days, and about 40% odd kind of a fall in this just last 2-3 days itself. Your own thoughts on how should one really approach some of the stocks here?
So I think it's a clear-cut function of what management promised in the phone call and what they're able to deliver ultimately. So the company that you mentioned about, I think the management did give a very rosy picture to the investors in the con call, and when the numbers did not meet with an expectation, we do see some sell-off happening. But Sakshi, that's the beauty about the market, isn't it? In which sector you will see some company doing extremely well and some company not doing well. And that not only applies to pharma, it applies to IT, it applies to bank, it applies to FMCG, so and so forth. So I think we need to clearly focus on the management, what management has been saying, and how much they're able to deliver based on the promises they made in the con call or in the annual report. And I think that's why you see divergence happening within the pharma sector. But having said that, I think overall, a lot of institutional investors have started buying more of a pharma. And even if you look at the some of the mutual fund, the total overall exposure to the pharma sector that has increased. What does it indicate? It indicates that they also expect pharma as a sector to outperform going forward.
Okay. Another pocket that I really wanted your view is the small cap and the mid cap space, especially the small caps. We've seen them actually performing better in this recent run up in the markets after a long haul. Do you think it is the right time and investors must make a strategy of including more mid and small cap stocks into their portfolios? And if yes, then how does one go about it?
Absolutely, yes. So if you look at 2022 was disaster for the mid and small cap. And it's very obviously, so as it when the rate of interest move up, the mid and small cap do underperform significantly. Now there is a hope that rate of interest will not see the hike in the rate of interest. Number one. Number two, by second half of 2023, the rate of interest will start coming down. And if that happens, it does help mid and small cap. Number one. Number two, 2022 was a risk off strategy was order of the day. In 2023, we are seeing risk on strategy. One of the classical example is the price appreciation between Nasdaq and Dow. The Nasdaq has done extremely well. What does this indicate? Is the risk on strategy is making a huge comeback. And whenever we have seen risk on strategy coming back, mid and small cap outperform very significantly. In fact, in our 2023 call, which we said in the beginning of 2000, we said that mid and small cap, this would be the year for mid and small cap. And we do believe the second half. So while if you look at YTD, mid and small cap outperform even the Sensex and the Nifty, but the gap is not so huge. In second half of 2023, the gap will widen further, where mid and small outperform very significantly the large cap. Now, how does one play to this complete mid and small cap? I believe we need to be really very, very careful in terms of stock selection because within the mid and small cap also, we could see the huge divergence that we saw some with something in pharma. So be careful with us. Put a lot of focus on the management quality because in mid and small cap, there's one gray area is the quality of the management. And if you happen to be in the wrong company, the losses could be very, very high. So we suggest go with the good quality management, those who do con call, those who are very transparent in terms of their disclosure in the annual report, and go with the sector that are going to do well. So we did mention about IT and pharma to do well. I think some of the mid and small caps within that two sectors, there are good quality companies available in pharma and the IT.
Okay, understood that. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Damania. It's been great speaking to you as always and getting all the insights about the markets and the way investors should be approaching their investments right now. Lots of exciting things really happening in the markets, and that's the beauty right there, just like how you pointed out. Enough opportunities, the right way to approach the markets. Thank you so much for giving guidance to all our viewers. Markets still up in trade to 33 points up now, 61,963 currently for the Sensex. The Nifty is hovering about 18,311, about 0.6% up in trade as well. So definitely the markets are looking at some kind of opportunities that may emerge out of this decision by the RBI, perhaps money coming into circulation and that getting into some buoyancy in the markets as well. We'll keep an eye on the market movement, and you can do that too by staying with us on Business Today TV. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and also continue to engage with us with our other social media platforms as well. Until then, thanks for tuning in.
बेसिक स्टेटमेंट जो आपने सितंबर 30 के बाद क्या होगा लोगों को
देखिए सितंबर 30 का एक हमने टाइम इसीलिए स्पेसिफाई किया है ताकि हमने जो ये अनाउंसमेंट किया है उसको सीरियसली लिया जाए। आप किसी भी